First of all, this is like a really fun workshop to do because it's kind of like being in the HOV lane with 6 different styles. And today with Brazilian Guitar Panorama, I'm going to focus primarily on accompaniment. And it's one of the things that we, as guitar players, very often overlook because our main concerns is our solo repertoire. And the thing is, with accompaniment, even though technically it might not be as demanding as solo literature, it's every bit as much of a serious responsibility as a performer. And those of you who have had experience playing some chamber or consort music know that accompanying someone is an art form. And therefore, I feel that it really deserves its own treatment. I will be playing some solo things, but just so you know the basic structure of today's workshop, we'll have 6 different styles. Those of you who visited the dedicated page on my website, you've already know this. We're going to have samba canção, then we'll have bossa nova, and then samba. And those 3 can kind of be thought of as a cluster of similar styles but with different variations. Then we're going to cover choro, which deserves its own workshop, probably its own universe. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the northeast of Brazil and deal with baião. Northeastern Brazilian styles are very rarely given any exposure here in the US, and so the reason why there's 2 pages of handouts on baião is exactly for that reason. I want to make sure that you know that there's a style of northeastern Brazilian music that is absolutely amazing and completely different from anything that you've already heard. That's the structure of the workshop, and at the end of each segment, I'm going to ask my great colleague of 29 years, Joe Ravo, great guitar player, great guy, no stranger to Manus, and he's going to come and he's going to play a tune with me at the end of each section. So I want to give you some tips and some very overreaching things about accompaniment, which I think apply to almost any style of music, whether you're shredding heavy metal or playing like a Dowland lute song, or whether you're playing Brazilian music, but specific to Brazilian music. In this age of information accessibility, very often we look for the short way out, don't we? We just want a 2-bar pattern and then we're good to go. No, you're not. That 2-bar pattern is your introduction to what some of the rhythmic elements are of a given accompaniment pattern, but that's just barely the scratching of the surface. Because to play a 2-bar pattern like something like, imagine doing that with no variation rhythmically for an entire song. It's not music. So what we need to do is that for each style, what we need to do is become familiar with the range of variations that would still be considered to be under the umbrella of that style. Now, where do the rhythms come from? Well, for the most part, rhythms in Brazilian music are derivative from percussion instruments, and that's why I have percussion here, and I'm going to demonstrate some percussion later and show you exactly how to just take that and put it on the guitar in your right hand. And then the voicings are up to you. So, a couple of things. When you're accompanying, and this is going to be mainly for a duo situation, which is different than a whole rhythm section situation. I'll play you some cuts from the brand new CD of my group Quarteto Moderno, which is available here. It's like I got the CDs 2 days ago, and you're the first people to have an opportunity to pick up what I think is a really exciting project of 10 of my original compositions with an amazing band. And I'll tell you more about the CD, and I'll play you some cuts from the CD so you can kind of tell the difference between a duo accompaniment situation for a guitar player and a full rhythm section situation. So, basically, for each style you want to cover, in order to assimilate the stylistic aspects of that genre, you have to study all of the melodic, harmonic, and rhythmic aspects. A rhythm comping pattern alone is not enough. That's the short way out, which means that you have to listen to repertoire and transcribe and really study the stuff, and then eventually you start by osmosis, you start to assimilate the range of rhythms and textures, dynamics and articulations, which when done in an informed way will bring you into the swing of that style. And most people think that swing only refers to bebop and jazz. Each style of music, including like Pakistani Qawwali music, has its own swing. And Brazilian music has its own swing, and each genre has its own kind of swing. So one of the things about being a good accompanist is that your sense of time has to be rock solid. Your acuity for syncopated rhythms has to be extremely sharp, but your playing should not sound mechanical. So it's kind of a paradox, isn't it? Well, he's telling me I got to have good time, I practice with the metronome all the time, and so forth and so on, but he's telling me that it shouldn't sound mechanical and metronomic. Well, that's right. Time should breathe, it should be elastic, and when you're playing with other people, right? It's not your solo recital repertoire. When you're playing with other people, you have to breathe together as an ensemble. And there's a little bit of give in Brazilian music, phrasing of melodic material, phrasing of harmonic material, and certainly phrasing of rhythmic material, that again, by osmosis, you start, I mean, you could define this specifically and notate it and transcribe it, but it's better to just kind of let it soak in, okay? So how do we get beyond the 2-bar pattern? Think of this. Think of a comping situation, accompaniment situation, where you are engaged in a process of perpetual variation rhythmically. Perpetual variation. If you listen to a samba school, like from Mangueira or Portela, one of the great samba schools, and you hear each percussion instrument playing its own thing, they're not playing the same thing bar after bar. There's this sense of perpetual variation. And if you think like a drummer, or you think like a bass player, then when you pick up your guitar, you will be a musician who is a percussionist that happens to be holding a guitar. That's the vibe. Dig? This is no longer an instrument where you can put your foot up on a footstool and stand here like this and play. The music's got to move through your body. You have to allow your body, especially your upper body, to be loose and fluid, because syncopated rhythms with a rigid body are not going to happen. You have to feel the flow of the syncopation and be able to relax with it. How do you relax with it? Go for a swim, go for a run, do some yoga, tai chi, qigong. Do some gentle stretching before you play. Your body is an instrument unto itself, and the dynamic interrelationship between your body and your instrument is vital, absolutely vital to making music of any quality, of any style. Okay? So, how do we relax our body? Don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to breathe. I had to learn how to play all over again by difficult passages, learning how to breathe through them, as opposed to holding my breath and saying, okay, let me concentrate now. You got to have fluid breath, okay? One of the things that's also really, really important, again, listen to drummers, listen to bass players, listen to piano players, listen to percussionists. That's where your source rhythms are going to come from, okay? Go out to hear live music played by great Brazilian musicians. New York is the place where you can hear lots of great live Brazilian music. Watch their physical interaction, their eye contact, their body movements, communicating different kinds of syncopations with their body. It's all second nature to them. But these are the kind of things that you need to do. Finally, before we start playing, and this is, by the way, this is all in your handout, the 2-page text called Essential Principles for Fluency in Brazilian Music and Accompaniment. The last thing is, for those of you who enjoy learning new languages, Brazilian Portuguese is probably the most beautiful language to learn from a sonic point of view, from a flow point of view, and the essential thing is that the speech rhythms of any language intensely inform the rhythmic structure of music. Any style, any ethnicity, any part of the planet. So if you are able to take a look at the lyrics, you know, on the liner notes of a great Chico Buarque CD, or Milton Nascimento, or Sérgio Santos, if you look and you listen to the lyrics and how they're flowing rhythmically with the melody, it's like it's all melded, it's all made for each other. So learning a little bit about the flow of Portuguese language, as well as the Afro-Brazilian roots of many of the genres, and how the drum influenced some of the more rhythmically intense and syncopated forms.